Welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast, featuring inspiring interviews with Etsy shop owners, hosted by Ijama Elazu.
Hi, and welcome to the Etsy Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ijama, and I thank you for joining me for another episode. And this week, we're going way down south. My guest is Shannon, and she runs the Etsy shop Southern Bells Like Big Bows. And from the minute I saw her shop name, I was like, we need to talk. Shannon, thank you so much for being my guest, and welcome to the podcast.
Oh, well, thank you. I feel like I'm talking to a celebrity.
No. I love the name of your Etsy shop. It just stands out so much, and it says everything.
Well, thank you. It is Bells Like Big Bows on Etsy. So if you on there, you'll find me that way.
Okay, and I will link to Shannon's Etsy shop as well. So if you're listening and you want to hop over and look right now, it's Bells Like Big Bows. And
that's right.
BELLES, like big bows.
Right.
Do Southern Bells really like big bows?
Absolutely.
The bigger,
they
the
really,
better.
really do. They like them really big. So,
you know what's funny is I always associated, and I don't know why, big bows with people from New Jersey. And I hope nobody is offended by that. But I did. And I'll tell you why, because I will admit now that I watched The Real Housewives of New Jersey. And there was one particular lady who had, I think, 4 or 5 girls, and each and every one of them always had a big bow on one side of their head.
That
always.
Is awesome. I love that. I love that.
Yes.
And I have had some customers from New Jersey, so.
Okay. So I'm not way off.
No. And I have seen more people in different parts of the country buying bows. I had one from New York City the other day. I was like, yes.
Oh, wow.
They're wearing bows in Manhattan.
Yes, I know. That's great. Yes. Do you sometimes feel like the culture in the southern U.S. is so drastically different from the north?
It is. It is a lot different. And I was born in the north. I'm a Yankee, and my husband's from the south. And so we came here after we got married, and we lived up north for a while. And we came back here when we were kind of getting ready to settle down and have kids. So
okay.
There is some parts of it that I really love and really enjoy, but there is a big difference for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So I hope I don't start a whole East Coast, West Coast rap thing now, but which do you prefer, right? North or South?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. We actually lived in Manhattan right after college.
Oh, wow.
And the reason we left was because of September 11th. And we both miss it a lot. I mean, I think if we had the chance to move back, we just loved it a whole lot. So, okay. But we like it down here too. This is where his family is, and where my family is now too. So,
okay. Yeah. Family trumps everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I know we've already kind of started the discussion, but can you tell us a little bit more about you? I feel like we've just learned some, but let's start with what you make, which I'm pretty sure everyone can guess right now, and how you got into making bows.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I do make bows, and I also make bow ties and pacifier clips and headbands and just a lot of little kid accessories like that. And how I got into it is, kind of like I guess a lot of stories that you'll hear on Etsy is, I had children, and I wanted to stay at home with them, but I needed an income. And so I started a friend of mine, actually, she taught me how to make just like a simple little like a flower headband. And before that, I had been scared of glue guns. I was scared of all the string coming off of them, and I was terrified. And she's like, no, it's easy. Let me show you. And so she showed me how to do it. And just from there, just putting it on her and seeing her in just something that I had made, I was just kind of hooked with just making something that was I don't know, wearable, something that I could enjoy her in and enjoy the accessory on her. You know, even today I still look at her bow as I'm looking at her. So, but I had learned to sew from my aunt before that, and she had got me into making quilts. And so I loved all the fabric and just all the beauty of all that. And so, with kids, I didn't have time to do that. And so the ribbon kind of just translated into being able to see all the beautiful colors and still having all of those similarities, but it was a project that I could get done while my kids were taking a nap, you know, so where you can't do that with a quilt. That's hours and hours of work.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, that's really how I got into it. And I had some friends that encouraged me to try a craft show, and I'm really glad that they were encouraging for me to do that. And I did that. And, right after the first craft show, I started selling on Facebook, and, that was right when that whole trend for Facebook where, you know, everybody was mad because the algorithms were changing. That was the first time that it happened. And so I just had to start diversifying really quickly from there, you know, trying to find out other ways to sell my bows. And so the story goes on from there when I eventually found Etsy.
So you first sold at craft shows, then Facebook. Etsy was not originally on your radar?
It wasn't. And you know how I found out that it even existed was because people kept sending me pictures from Etsy. Oh. I found this bow on Etsy. Can you make me one like this? And I finally thought, I need to get on Etsy.
Yeah. Nice. So now when you did get on Etsy, did you first educate yourself, or you just went to the website and you're like, boom, open shop, let's do this?
I pretty much just boomed open shop, let's do this, because we had already started. I live in a commercial area, and so I live in a historic home, and it's commercially zoned. And so I was already making bows locally for friends and for family and other people. And my husband kind of convinced me to open up part of it to make a storefront.
Wow.
And so when he did that, so that was already going, and I was just, you know, feet full-fledged in looking for outlets, looking for any platform to sell on. And I just started by listing like 2 or 3 bows, and, you know, filling out all my little segments, my about section. And I had this idea because monogramming is huge in the South. And I thought, you know, I bet I could put a monogram on a bow. And that was one of the first things I listed, was one of my big monogram bows.
How quickly did you get a sale?
And I've listened to some other stuff about this, and I thought, oh, that's why it sold so quickly. We actually were in Florida back from my 20-year high school reunion. We were in the hotel, and I had got my pictures and everything ready. And while my kids were sleeping, because we were going to like Disney World the next day, I was posting, you know, some listings of some bows and filling out the descriptions and everything. And the very next day, when we were riding, I'll never forget this, when we were riding on the people mover, I heard the little cha-ching.
Wow.
What's that? And one of my bows had sold. So, and I think that's, you know, some people grumble because, oh, it's, you know, Etsy helps you out right when you're starting, and they get more whatever. But I think that's so important just to get people going, because I had that first sale and then that first good review, and you need those things to get going.
Yes.
So
you do. It's like, it's validation for what you're doing. And I know not everyone's first sale comes that quickly. And, you know, I try and encourage people to just wait it out. And part of that is a factor of what you're selling, or part of a factor in that is what you're selling. Perhaps the person who wants it or needs it has not yet come on to the site looking for it.
Exactly.
So it doesn't mean that it won't sell or might never sell. I know I had my first sale like within minutes of listing the item, and I thought I didn't even know what had happened because I knew nothing. I just put it up there and I said, let me see what happens. And I was in the process of listing my second product, and I saw an email that said I had sold something, and I'm like, oh, maybe that's the fee for the listing. It was just crazy. Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing.
It was too good to be true.
It was too good to be true. Now, back to you.
Well, and
sorry,
I was going to say too, I think the reason that it did come so quickly was because at that time there was nobody else selling that particular product. There was a ton of bows, but there was no monogram bows.
Yeah.
So embroidered monogram bows. So I think that helped too, in addition to that Etsy push. Now there's a lot of monogram bows on there, but when I first started there wasn't.
Yes, and this was back in 2011. So you've been around for 7 years now, and so
well, actually that was in 2014 when I really started going strong. We originally had I was going to start a fabric shop here in the same commercial building, and that was right before Katrina hit down here. So right after Katrina went through, we decided not to try the whole fabric shop thing. So I had a bunch of stuff to sell, like thread and things like that, that I was going to use. So that's where that date comes from. So it's not the real start date.
Oh, okay. So did you, So 2011 was when you opened it, but then was when you opened an Etsy shop, I should say.
Exactly,
but then today, Southern Bells Like Big Bows as it exists actually started in 2014.
Yes.
Okay. Which is even all the more, fantastic because you have, almost 7,800 sales already in 4 years. Yeah.
I haven't checked it recently. That's awesome.
Oh, I'm looking at it right now. Yes, that is awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Now, for the bows you make, I just want to talk more about what you're actually making and selling. Can they be untied, or do you sew them into shape so that one just puts them on?
Yeah, no, there's actually no sewing in my actual bow, like with the grosgrain ribbon, that kind of process. There is sewing in the bow tie process. But in that one, there's no sewing, and it's put together in place. And I actually use zip ties, so they're not coming off that the clip that I have it on. And I guess there is sewing in the embroidery. That's actually done. That's a form of sewing on the ribbon. So that's sewing. But yeah, no, they're not untied. Even the bow ties that I make, 90% of those are pre-tied. There is one self-tie bow tie that I make where the guy's got to actually tie it himself, but everything else just always stays in place.
Okay. And then how and when did you decide to branch out into offering products for boys?
I always tell people it was kind of spurred out from my son because he was kind of jealous. My daughter was getting all these bows and he wanted something too. So it was pretty quickly thereafter that I started doing bow ties too, because it's just another accessory and one that can be personalized. And so sometimes I think they don't really go together, but other times I feel like they go together perfectly. I don't know, but it seems to work on my website. So.
I think it works.
On the Etsy site. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, have you found that having a name that implies you only deal with one particular product has been a hindrance to you expanding and growing your business?
I mean, that's a good question. It probably would on, because I have a website too. So I probably, because of the name, I'm going to be getting more hits just for bows in general. So it could, but I haven't seen it yet, but yeah.
Okay. I was just curious too, but on the other hand, I also think that your customer, even though you make bows primarily for little girls, your customer is actually their moms or aunts and grandmothers who, as they are shopping, will see what other products you're selling. And so, if they have boys or, little boys in their lives, they, that opens that market up to them as well.
Right.
I think it's important to remember that, not just for you, but someone else who's listening, we might make a particular product for a particular audience, but it doesn't mean that's who's going to be doing the shopping, especially
right.
in your case, Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's not little girl shopping. Yeah.
Yeah. So now you discovered Etsy, you opened your shop, you're doing it. Did you intend for it to just be a side thing as an addition to what you were already doing, selling in person at craft shows and perhaps on Facebook? Or did you intend for your online business to take over from selling at the craft shows?
Well, actually, I mean, I have never really focused on craft shows. I do one craft show a year that's here locally, just because craft shows, they're a lot of work.
Yeah.
All the setup and the tear down and the takedown and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of thinking, my local shop that we have here now was going to be like the bread and butter. And then the Etsy shop would, just kind of fill out. But honestly, I looked at the numbers last year, and 66% of my sales were online, and most of that being on Etsy. So it's really, it's taken over. I mean, it's the bulk of what I sell here at the shop. I mean, we're working on orders a lot for Etsy more than we are for local people.
Okay.
Except for this time of year, we're getting into our back to school season. And so this is a big time of year for us here locally. So hopefully I'll have a good back to school season here locally.
And is back to school season bigger for you than the end of year, holiday, Christmas shopping season?
Yes, absolutely.
Is
yeah.
it?
Back to school is like my Christmas.
Oh, really?
And I've had to work last year and the year before it trying to get my Christmas season a little better, because I knew it should be. And so, yeah, it definitely back to school. That first year, I was just blown away with just all the back to school orders. This whole bows are very seasonal, and so it's been a big learning curve for me.
When is the off season for bows? Winter?
Summer, right now, like June.
Is the off
June.
season?
Mm-hmm. Because everybody's at the beach. They're not worried about getting bows in their daughter's hair.
Yes. Yeah.
They're at the beach. They're at vacation,
Okay.
So, yeah, it's definitely the off season for bows. And then right before Christmas, we'll have people buying special bows for Christmas, and then Easter and stuff like that. But yeah, back to school is definitely the biggest season for bows.
Okay. All right. So you said that you looked at the numbers and you found that 66% of your sales were coming from online. That said, that recently Etsy has made some changes to their platform. When you first heard the announcement about the increase in fees and the new paid subscription levels, did that give you any pause? Did it change your outlook on how you structured your business, or did you just go along with it and view that as a cost of doing business?
Yeah, I initially was upset for a few minutes. Honestly, I was like, what? No. But I immediately knew, and I hate to say this, and I don't know if this is what everybody else is feeling or it's just me, but some of that cost will have to be passed along to the customers. I mean, not all of it, but some of it will. I mean, just to be profitable. So, but I mean, at the same time, it is, like you said, I knew it was the cost of doing business. And, some of the fees are higher on other platforms. And it, I mean, sure. I wish they weren't going up, but they are. And I'm going to stick with it because, and I've been thinking about this kind of a lot. Etsy, they have a lot of changes. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of changes. I mean, the platform changes, the algorithms changes, the listing, all this stuff changes. But since I've been on Etsy, every time there's been a change, it's been good. And now I know that I've heard, some grumblings that it isn't. But from my viewpoint, it's always been good. And when they send me something that says, do you want to be on the beta form of this to try out the new dashboard? I'm like, yes, let me try it. I'm just kind of one of these people that change is hard, but I usually embrace it because there usually once you get past that hard part, there's some real good that comes after that. So, I like trying this new dashboard when it came out. It was a struggle. But now I love it and I would never want to go back. I just love all the new tools and all the features on it. So I think that's kind of how I'm trying to view this with the price, with the rate increases. Mm-hmm. They are saying that there is going to be a lot more traffic and a lot more advertising put into it. So for right now, I'm saying, yes, I'm going to embrace it and keep going forward,
Yeah, that's a good attitude to have. And I said something similar in that, yes, it is a cost of doing business. At the end of the day, Etsy is still, as of right now, one of the less expensive online platforms to sell on. And I do respect the fact that not every seller is at a point where they can, afford to absorb those additional costs without passing it on to buyers. But I feel like it's like you, I understand the reasons for doing it, and I am more curious than anything to see what changes come with this.
Yeah. I'm hoping for really good positive changes and that it'll be good going forward. That's what I'm hoping for.
Well, I'm envisioning seeing, how around Christmas time you see those eBay commercials on TV. I'm envisioning now seeing Etsy commercials on TV around Christmas time.
That's right. That's right. We're paying that 5%. I want a commercial.
That's right. That extra 1.5% had better make me see that orange on my TV screen. So what does a typical day look like in the life of your business? It's not often that I have someone, I've had people on the podcast who run an e-commerce site and an Etsy shop, but you're running an e-commerce website, which, by the way, if you want to go and check it out, it's Southern Bells Like Big Bows. Again, Bells is BELLES. SouthernBellsLikeBigBows.com. That's Shannon's e-commerce website.
Yeah.
So how does your typical day go with running these two, the shop, your website, and a brick and mortar store?
Well, first, let me say I'm not doing it all on my own. I do have an assistant, a production assistant, and right now I've actually got a part-time production assistant. So there is absolutely no way I could do all of it without them. And I made the decision really early on because I have 2 young kids that I wanted to grow this business and not keep it small. And, but I still wanted to be able to spend time with them. Mm-hmm. And that was the whole reason I didn't go and get another job, for an additional income. I wanted to be able to spend time with them. So I kind of made the decision to go ahead and pay somebody so that they could help with the production part of it. And so that I could be gone for field trips. And so I wouldn't be locked down to being at the retail, all day long. Now that makes it sound like I just have loads of money coming in, and that's not true. I just recently started taking a small paycheck in probably like the last 6 months. So lots of times my production person, she gets more than I do. I don't know if some would say that's a smart business decision or not, but that's just kind of where I'm at because I'm a mom and I want to be able to spend time with my kids too. So that part that I can train somebody to do, which is the embroidery and the making and the sewing and all that, I wanted to be able to do that. So I'm not doing it all by myself.
Okay, good.
But,
thank you. That paints a realistic picture, actually, because, yeah, it's good to know. Because I know sometimes we compare, and a lot of times we compare ourselves to other sellers, but we don't always know, how each business is run.
Right. And what's going on behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But
I mean, as far as my typical day, usually start getting the kids ready, getting them off to school when it's not summer. And then I'll, usually have, if I'm doing great, I'll go to the gym before they go to school. Right. But, right now I'm not doing that. Yeah. So get them to school and maybe have a little private time, just some time reading my Bible or whatever, just a little time before I get started for the day. And then I'll come in and I'll start working on answering messages and, doing orders. What I do is, for my part of a lot of the orders, is all the personalization, all the customization, all of that goes on to it, all the working on the, my program that digitizes and does all those things. So I'll do a lot of that in the morning. And then so that I can have that ready to give to the gal that works with me, so she can get them on the machines and start everything going. And then if it's a really busy season, I'll be working on that well until lunch, or even till I have to pick my kids up for school in the afternoon, and just answering the questions and going back and, it takes a lot of time doing all that, with the customers. But if it's not busy, then it's kind of seasonal. Like right now I'm getting ready for back to school. So we've got, we did a back to school photo shoot, and we've got those pictures that I'm trying to upload on the website, and, and I'm trying to schedule my, my social media posts. And so it'll kind of go back and forth. It'll flip flop seasonally. And that's always kind of a juggling act, still keeping your social media going when it is busy and not totally neglecting that, and then when it's not busy, you're, sending a message every hour on social media. I mean, it's not that bad, but, just trying to juggle all that.
Yes.
And then in the afternoon, I'll go and pick the kids up and then take them about their activities. And somewhere in there, I'll fit in, coming back, checking on all the orders and getting everything ready to be mailed. And I do still make bows myself, but I don't make as many now because she helps me. But one thing I do when I get back is I check everything. I look over it. I make sure that everything's right, that the colors are right, that the shape of the bow is right, that the clips are right. Because I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I just couldn't teach somebody else how to do what I do, or them could get it." But I feel like with this, I have been able to do that. And I think it helps to accomplish it by making sure, going over everything, making sure that everything has that certain look that you want, and just, that there's no mistakes. Now, that being said, we still do have mistakes, but that's part of the process right before the mail goes out. And it's always kind of a mad rush to the mail. I wish we were a little more organized about it, but our mail goes out at 4. Our post office closes at 4:45. So we're usually printing labels and getting them on boxes and wrapping everything. And, and then we have a train right here, and inevitably the train comes. So
great.
But that's pretty much how that goes. And then in the evening, that's usually my time to focus more on, after the kids go to bed, planning ahead and doing more stuff with the, with the website, or just the kind of the more deep thinking stuff that takes more thought, the planning and things like that. Just the whole marketing part of it, really. Yeah.
And I can't wait to get into what you're doing as far as marketing, but back to how your day goes and working with the production assistant. So you do all the quality control checks.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. Now,
so if somebody got an order and it was messed up, it's because I missed it. It's a lot of pressure, Ijama.
I know. I can only
I
imagine.
do miss stuff too. Yeah. So
do you find that sometimes you have to send, give her back something to redo because you caught something?
Yeah. And that's kind of one of the first things I tell them is, I'm going to give you stuff back. Don't take it personally.
Yeah.
It's, it's just it has to be redone. So, and the girl that's the part-time college gal that's helping now, I gave her back like 3 or 4 bows today, and she just took it and redid it, which is awesome, but she knows that it's just part of it. And, when I do get, feedback, maybe a customer send me a message, say my box was smushed or, something like that, or that it wasn't packaged right, I kind of always tell them about that and relay that with them, so they kind of know where I'm coming from. I'm not just being crazy.
Yeah. Now, how did you find people to work for you? What was your hiring process? Did you advertise for it? Was it just word of mouth? How did you do it?
Actually, the one that I've had here with me the longest, she's been here, I guess, about 1.5 years now. A lady that I know, she referred her to me. She had actually lost her job because of time missed, and she was in a real kind of corporate environment, and they didn't have any flexibility with that with her. And so she told me she was a volunteer at her church, and she was really great. And so I interviewed her, and she came in, and it was, I don't want to say it was all great at the beginning. There was a bumpy road with the whole training process. But now when I look back, I see that the stuff that was difficult with me teaching her and her learning, it helped just really iron out how we do everything. And it's kind of made everything just really an exact, there's no guesses. This is how we do it, So that bumpy road has really helped. And then the other girls that just started a couple months ago, she was actually through Facebook. I just put a little posted job posting thing on there and asked a few basic questions, and then they came in for interviews and stuff. So I would love some other better way to do it, but I haven't. I'm sure I could, buy some expensive tests to give them to see if they've got the right qualifications, but I can't afford that. So. Yeah. Because it is hard trying to find people that are creative, but also a perfectionist and detail oriented. It's hard. So.
Right. Yes. And also because they're coming into your personal space, there's that factor as well. You want to vet who's coming.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because my kids are here. So yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Do you have now, having worked with the First Lady and getting a process in place for getting her up to speed, is that something that you documented so that as you grow and scale, the next person who comes in, you can hand them a manual and say, here's how we do things?
I would love to be at that place, but right now everything is a series of Post-its. Okay. This is how long you cut this, and this is how long you do that. And it's like all rainbow colored and lined up on the side of my thing. Yeah. But that is really where I want to get to. My husband's an engineer, and he's like, you need to make a manual. Where do I have the time to do this?
You need to hire another intern to make the manual. Just put all the sticky notes into a nice document.
Yes. And somebody you just had on the podcast a couple of weeks ago was talking about being prepared if something were to happen. Yes. I was like, I know, I need to do that.
Now, are you ever concerned, and maybe not necessarily with the staff you have now, but as you grow, concerned that you might one day train someone and get them to, a point where they're, cruising with doing the work, only to have them turn around and start their own shops? Or is that something you encourage?
Actually, no, I've already thought about that. And we actually have them sign a non-compete form when I hire them.
Smart. So, okay.
I don't know if, I haven't ever tried to follow up on that. But yeah, we have them sign a form for non-compete because, I'm kind of, handing them what it took me years to learn.
Right. Yes. And
You know,
that's the concern.
lots of trial and error, and and I'm just like saying, here, this is how you do it. So,
yeah.
but I mean, I do know that there's more to it than just making bows. So even if they walked out the door and started selling bows, it probably would, it would be challenging too. So, but no, I don't encourage that. I do try to encourage, if I know somebody else that's trying to have their own shop or do this or do that, I do try and encourage that, but not with my employees. I want them to stay.
Yes, I know. Yeah, and that's the whole thing. Especially when you look for other creative people, but we don't all have that entrepreneurial drive. So
Right.
some of us just want to create, and we don't necessarily want to start a business or run a business. We just need that outlet. And so it's, it's a matter of finding that right person who is happy just making and is not
Right.
concerned about growing their own empire, at least not in the same way.
Right. Right.
Now, you mentioned that right now you're doing your photography shoots for back to school. Do you do all your own photography, or is that something you outsource?
It's both. For the product shots the still shots, I do all those on my own. But for the back to school photo shoot, we actually went to somebody's photo studio and she took pictures. So that's one way I get pictures, but that can be kind of expensive. So another way that I found to do it, which has worked really well for me so far, is I have bow reps, and it's people that I send bows or bow ties to, or I have pacifier clips to, and I'll send those to them, and in exchange for free photos, basically. So it's kind of limits me in that maybe whatever age they're in, I'm kind of stuck with that age for those, or maybe if it's a baby, she's grown up and I can't, I can't maybe get as many, especially if it's a boy, because pacifier clip won't fit him anymore. He won't wear bow ties,
Yeah.
So I kind of have to keep finding new people, and then I have to look to find people that take photos in a way that kind of fits with how I like the photos to look. So it can be challenging, but it has worked really well. So doing it that way.
And your bow reps, I'm assuming, are similar to what someone else might refer to as a brand ambassador.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But a lot of times, like right now I have 2 local ones, which I haven't. They've always been further away, but right now I have 2 local ones, and they just like getting the bows and taking pictures. They're really not interested in being a brand ambassador for, they'll put it on their Facebook or their Instagram, go see Southern Bows Like Big Bows, but they just, one of them is a professional photographer and one of them just does it on the side, and they're both really good.
Okay. And that was what I was going to ask was, how did you find the local ones? And for the ones that aren't local, do you just do hashtag searches on, say, Instagram and find somebody's feed that you like and then reach out to them?
I've done a little bit of that, but I haven't. One person I did that with, it wasn't very successful. She never sent me the picture. I sent her the bows, and she sent me like 1 or 2 not very good pictures, and had a whole lot more that she didn't send me. So I've been kind of a little leery of that. So how I usually just will do, maybe on Instagram or on Facebook, I'll say I'm looking for bow reps. Private message me some pictures of some of your pictures, and then we'll start a conversation back and forth, about if she's interested and what's involved, and we'll do it that way. The one other person that I got here locally, she was actually referred by another shop that I started wholesaling bows to. She was her friend, and she said she takes pictures and she's got a little girl, and she's a professional photographer, but she still wanted to trade bows for pictures. So I love it.
Okay. And that was my next question. For the most part, you're trading bows for pictures, and it's not always a financial transaction.
Yeah, no. Now the back to school one we went up there, and I paid her, and it was a full photo shoot up at her studio. And So, and that was fun. And I got to take my kids and they got to be little models too. And their friends got to come and they had a fun time. So.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that does sound like fun. Okay. And, okay. Good to know. Cause I know some people will use, and it doesn't always work for every type of product, but if you have a product that lends itself to having reps in this way, it's a good way to exchange services and save some money.
Right.
How did you first think of doing this? Did you know of other sellers that were doing something similar, or did you just kind of fall into?
I think I saw somebody else saying that they were looking for a brand rep or something like that. And I thought, that's a really good idea. I'm going to steal that. So, yeah.
Okay.
Because, everything's so visual now. We need pictures all the time. And it's just, it's hard. It's very time consuming and draining. And I tell my kids, I'm like, you might want to think about being a photographer when you grow up, because we need pictures for everything.
Yes, I know. And I think I've said it on a couple of podcasts in the past that would be a great service to offer, is just being an Etsy photographer. I can see that person getting very overwhelmed very quickly. Yes. Because there's nothing that says you have to do your own photography. And if it's one more thing you can get off your hands, then why not? So let's talk about getting the word out and how you promote your shop and your products. And before we get into that, or not before, but what I would love to start with is the promotional video that you have in the About section in your Etsy shop. And I'll just explain what this is. Shannon was able to get TV coverage on a station locally in her area, and they came to her brick and mortar shop and did a whole, I don't want to call it an expose. Expose sounds like you were doing something wrong. What's the right word? I don't know.
Interview? I don't know.
Spotlight. Yeah. They spotlighted.
Spotlight. Yeah, that's what they called it.
Yes. Yep. They spotlighted her shop and she got a whole TV segment. So can you tell us how you were able to connect with the TV station and get them to come out there and interview you and put this focus on your shop and then highlight you on TV? Because I think local coverage is something that will be very helpful to other sellers.
Okay, sure. And kind of just a backstory with how it happened. I'm also really involved in since our doors opened, I've been a member of our local Chamber of Commerce, and our Chamber of Commerce just has a lot of resources. They have summer learning series and just all these networking opportunities. And when I first started one summer, they had this panel of entrepreneurs come and talk. There was 3 of them, and I was just eating it up. I mean, they were telling us all kinds of great things. And one of the things that really stuck with me was one of the gentlemen said that you should always be involved in your community. You should always be giving back. You should be involved with the chamber and other things. And so I'm not able to do that as much as I want to, but I was in, and I am involved with the chamber, and I want to be a part of the community just in general. So I should say that, but that was something that did come about because I was a part of an organization, and I was at one of their meetings, and it was a nonprofit organization I was at, and he was actually the speaker at a meeting, and he mentioned that he had this show, and if, he's usually looking for people to be on it. And I said, well, right after the meeting, I ran up there and I gave him my name, and he gave me his email address, and, we emailed back and forth. And we got it set up, and it was just because I happened to be at this meeting that night, so I don't think, and I honestly didn't want to go that night to that particular meeting. And I just, felt this nudging like, you really need to go. And I'm just so glad I did, because it was such a blessing just to have that video where it just really shows the inside and kind of shows that I'm really a legit business. And so, you wouldn't believe how many people told me that they saw it. I feel like they must have aired it 100 times. So it was a little bit embarrassing at the same time, but it was good. And I think it just kind of came out of just being in the right place at the right time, really. And just also, take into heart what he said about just being involved and, giving back and all of that too. And so if you have a local chamber, check it out, get involved. Even if they don't have a lot of stuff, just the networking opportunities alone with the chamber is usually good, because I feel like it's really helped me to grow for sure.
Yes, I agree. Belonging to your local chamber of commerce makes a big difference. And especially in this day and age where I think more often than not, we look for online marketing and advertising opportunities. And I think there's a hole that's being created in local marketing opportunities, which makes it a good place for you to go and try to fill, because many people, especially those of us with businesses online or on the internet, are tending to forget as time goes by that we can also have local customers. And the piece was so well done. And I was just so impressed by it. So other than that.
Thank you. He did a phenomenal job. So thank you. Yeah, he did. He was a natural for sure.
Yes. Yeah. I watched it twice because I was like, okay, wait, did I miss anything? And I was like, great, what are we going to talk about now? I feel like I know about her business already. Yeah, it was very well done.
Well, thank you.
So in addition to that, how else, on a more regular basis, do you market your business?
Well, I do it pretty regularly. I have something called Later, and it's like $9 a month, and it will let me post to up to 3 accounts. I think I'll do more than 3, but I'm only doing 3. Well, mostly I do 2. I do Facebook and Instagram. Okay. And I try to schedule a few weeks out with that. And then I'll come in and pop in every once in a while and just do something on my own with that. And so I try to do a lot of, just organic, just having that, just the constant kind of interaction and the stuff going out regularly. Mm-hmm. And then if I have something big coming up, then I usually will do like paid advertising and things like that. So.
And by paid, do you mean Etsy's promoted listings or Google shopping campaigns? Actually,
for anything I haven't done Google. I had that the Google AdWords confuses the heck out of me. I need to watch a tutorial.
Yeah.
So, but if I do just Facebook and Instagram paid advertising to lead to go to my e-commerce site. Okay. And then I do Etsy. I'll do their advertising for their Etsy. I've kind of got them separate. I all of my Instagram, my Facebook, I try to send them all to my website. Yeah. But it's funny because I'll post something on Instagram and then they'll send me a message on Etsy. Hey, I just saw it. Even though all of my Instagram stuff links to my website, that people just seem to shop for you wherever they want to. But
yeah, and it's nice that you own that name, in that any search anyone does online for Southern Bells like Big Bows, you show up. Right. So
I won't in the Etsy one though. I wish I could, but it won't. Yes. If you put that Southern in there, it won't show up.
Oh, really? It won't show up at all?
Mm-mm. Now, if you do a Google search, it'll show my website and my Etsy. Okay. It'll show both of them. But if you put Southern on the the shop search in Etsy, it won't come up.
Yeah. Interesting. Now, you're sending most of your traffic to your own website, which is the Southern Bells, but Southern Bells like BigBows.com. Do you find that you're getting more sales from your e-commerce shop than Etsy?
No,
Okay.
That's like my end game. Well, it's not my end game goal, but that's my goal right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get just as much on there as I am on Etsy, if not more, but I'm working on building it up to that point. But, a lot of, most of my traffic comes from Etsy.
Yeah.
So
do you see, I see that on that site you're using Shopify. Do
mm-hmm.
you plan to at some point incorporate blogging into that website, or you're just going to focus on getting traffic mainly from social media platforms?
I think mainly social media. I'm trying to expand my Pinterest too, because I've heard so many people say so many
Yes.
great things about it. And honestly, I have a couple pins that I put on Pinterest several years ago before I was directing everybody to my new website. And a lot of my stuff in Etsy comes from those old pins. So
Yes.
I know that's something I need to work on more. But right now I've just been focusing on, Facebook and Instagram.
Yes.
So, but that's my long-term, my goal for this year is to get more promoted pins on Pinterest and just more pins.
If you had to narrow down the platforms that you use for marketing to two, which two would you pick?
The two I do use or the two I want to use?
The two you want to use.
Probably Instagram and Pinterest.
Okay.
But I end up using Facebook and Instagram all the time because I just know Facebook. It's easy for me.
Yeah. Do you get a good return on the time you invest in using Facebook?
Yeah, I do. I have a lot that's where a lot of my local business is.
Okay.
So yeah, I do.
Okay.
And just the tools for the advertising on there, you can just so pinpoint and target that advertising. I feel like it's a good return because a lot of people around here still use Facebook.
Yeah.
So
when you do run Facebook ads, I'm assuming you do, right?
yes.
Do you what do you think is a good amount to budget to spend on Facebook ads? Because I've heard very different numbers from $5 a day cap to people spending thousands a month on Facebook advertising. And most of what I hear is that it does give good returns, but when is too much and how much is too little to spend?
Right. I don't think any amount's too little, honestly.
Okay.
I mean, I've spent as little as 5 or 10 or 15 before. I was just doing a little 4th of July sale and I promoted it, I think, for $15 or something, just because you have to pay them for Facebook to show your stuff nowadays.
Yeah, you do.
And sometimes I found that when I do that, I seem to get more local traffic into the shop. I'm not getting as many sales online, but I'm getting more people coming in, just foot traffic. Yeah. Because foot traffic is hard where I'm at in my community. So getting foot traffic is kind of a big deal. So that's not necessarily my aim when I'm doing these little promotions, but I think, and I've had customers tell me, I just saw that and I remembered I wanted to come in here and get da 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 da. So it's working more for that for me than it is for getting people to, buy right now on my website. It does work for that, but that's what it's worked for the little ones. But I mean, I'll spend $50, maybe $100 if it's a big one. Like right now I'm getting ready to do my back to school and I've got all professional photos and I want to make sure to get outlying areas that know that I have these local school bows because I do like their logos and all that. And so I will spend more on that, but I've never spent $1,000. Mm-hmm. I kind of wondered, would it explode? I mean, I don't know, but I don't have that to throw around and spend right now. So.
I know. I've tried it before, and I think I did I did $5 a day, and then once when I was feeling really, really brave and rich, I did $7, and then I panicked, and then I stopped it after 3 days because I was like, "Are you crazy? $7 a day?"
You only spent $21.
Yes, but I was having palpitations. I couldn't deal with more than $5 a day.
I think if you think about what your end number is going to be, like, okay, I'm going to spend $50. And I know I'm going to spend $50 and divide that by whatever number it is. That would probably make it easier.
Yeah. Next time.
Because $21.
I know. At the end of the day, and it wasn't even 20. I think it ended up being something like 16 or 17 because, you don't always hit your cap.
Yeah.
But still, I was like,
yeah, it was enough.
$7, that's enough. Stop this madness. Speaking about getting foot traffic, now your brick and mortar shop is unique in that not only are you in a historical building, but you're in a location that is commercial, and that's ideally what we as sellers, if you were to have a brick and mortar store, would want. How can others who are contemplating branching out into having a local shop go about picking the right location?
I'm probably not qualified to answer that one because I just feel like I was really just blessed and that it just kind of all fell into line. That being said, though, we are not in a good location because the town that I'm in has it's a very, I guess, impoverished town. I forget what percentage is below the poverty line, but it's a pretty large percentage. So that, I'm not in the best location, but thankfully I have online to help, balance that out. Yeah. And we have talked quite a bit about moving to another location that is a better area, that I probably would get more foot traffic, but then trying to weigh, well, is it just going to be a wash? I'm going to get more foot traffic, but I'm getting more sales, but I'm paying out more in rent, Yeah. So maybe it wouldn't really be worth it. And so it's okay that I'm not getting a lot of foot traffic because I have online. I will say that I did hear the same person that talked about, being involved in the chamber and everything. Mm-hmm. He said, go and look up, where he gave the example of a Dodge store. He said, they're always in this certain location, they're always on the leaving the location. They're always on the right side of the road. He said, go look and how a McDonald's sets up, the kind of things they look for. So I haven't really dug into that, but I thought, well, when I'm looking for a location, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start kind of scraping around and see what thought process goes into where a McDonald's will open up or where a Dodge store will open up or something like that.
Like a car shop?
It's like a gas station, but they sell chicken.
Oh.
And everybody thinks it's local, but it's not because they're always usually outside of a big, manufacturing area. I'm right by Ingalls shipyard. And so they employ, thousands of people. And so, they get all this traffic every day leaving. They stop to get their gas and their chicken on their ride home. And yeah. So, and they make a killing. So, and he was saying that they're always strategically located outside of these big areas, big, like in plants or whatever.
Okay. Wow. Interesting. Okay. Good to know.
I learned a lot of stuff from that panel. I tell you what, I was eating that up.
You almost didn't go. See what you have missed out. Now, on your website, you also have a newsletter. You collect email addresses. What program do you use for doing your newsletter mailings? And when you do communicate with people on your mailing list, what do you share? Do you do DIY type messages, or just here's what's new in my shop and here are my sale items?
I actually have not sent out any emails, Shauna.
Oh,
that's on I'm collecting them, but I haven't done anything with them. And I know I need to. I think I heard, Renee Christine talking about that today, about how you own that list, and it's kind of this gold mine. And I've just been collecting them. I haven't done anything. And I think you asked me if I have a blog or if I have a long term for a blog. And I don't, because I just don't. I don't know what to talk about.
Yeah. Well,
So,
I have the same problem too. And, I struggle, like every once in a while, I'll have like or what do you call it? Not a brainstorm, but when you get a really good idea of something that I want to share, and then I will.
right,
But that doesn't happen so often. And,
right.
sometimes I feel like, I never want to just send an email for the sake of it. So don't feel bad. I get not communicating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then too, you've got the whole element of, well, this is my secrets. These are my trade secrets. And the DIY, I don't know if I want to share. And, but there's some parts I could share. And so I get all conflicted with that too. So, but I think my long-term for the emails is, I just want to send out little emails. This is what we've got going on. This is a new line we have, those kind of things, I think is what I'd like to do, ideally.
Interestingly enough, right before we started our conversation, I stumbled on a course that teaches about how to nurture your people on your mailing list. I did not buy it, just FYI, so I have no idea what it said, but it did pique my interest because I thought, so there is a method to how to, how to be not responsible, but, how to successfully nurture, I guess is the word, people on your mailing list. I always hear people say that, and I'm like, nurture? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how was your day? Email me.
I want to be your friend.
I want to be your friend. Yes, I know. I'm like, no, they don't want to hear from me. But actually, that's not true. I have to remind myself. We all should remind ourselves. If they signed up, they do.
Yes. And I think people would love to hear from you. I mean, you've got so many nuggets of wisdom in your head from all the people you've talked to. We would anything you have to say, we'd want to hear.
Oh, thank you.
For sure.
Now, in the last few years that you've been actively selling on Etsy, have you had any things that have happened that have taught you a lesson the hard way, and now you know better, and can you help save someone else from maybe making the same mistake or blunder?
Yes, and I would like to say now I know better, but I just don't think I do. I made the same mistake recently. It's really just the whole thing of the customer is always right, because I know when I made a mistake and when it's my fault and when it's not. And so if it's not my mistake, I have a hard time saying I'll fix it anyways.
Yeah.
Like I had a situation where a man, I sent a digital proof, he approved it, he got it, and he said, it's not the right color. And I said, but you approved it. This is what you said that you wanted, and I made it. Well, he got upset and he took a case to Etsy, and Etsy ended up finding in both of our favors, giving us both our money back. Well, then a little while later, I applied to be on Etsy wholesale, which I've heard that they're phasing out.
Yes.
So, and I got denied. And when I asked them why, they couldn't give me an answer, but they said, you've had any cases against you, So I think that Etsy's stance is definitely, they always want the customer to be happy. Even if you did what was right and did what was requested, they still, the customer's right and they want you to fix it. And so I've really thought about that, and I thought it's hard. Because you know that you didn't do anything wrong, and that part of you that's going, I am a good, person. I made this great, to have to step back and say, okay, I'll send you a new one, even though I didn't do anything wrong, it's kind of hard for me to do that. But I think what I've learned is, what do you want the end outcome to be? Do you want them to be happy? Do you want them to maybe come back, refer a friend, or do you want them to never do business with you again, never refer anybody, say bad things about you, leave a bad review, because, in the end, you want them to be happy. And I've noticed when I have made mistakes, and I've, some customers will put on their review, I made a mistake, but she fixed it. I was so happy, and so it's almost like it's this opportunity for people to really love you. if you can look at it that way, if you really doing that extra effort. Now, there's always going to be the people that are going to take advantage.
Yeah.
I know there is. But I found that on Etsy, it doesn't seem to be the case. It kind of seems to be the exception. It seems generally that people are really nice on there. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that's something I'm still learning and still struggling with and still trying to get better at.
Was that kind of scary? I don't know if scary is the right word, but I guess upsetting in a way to have a case that went to the resolution center, and then you had to deal with that.
Oh yeah. I hated that. It's like going and telling mom, look what she did. Even though you're right and you're proving your point and you've got all the documentation to back it up, you still don't want to be there to begin with. Yeah. So if I don't want to be there to begin with, I should have just sent them a new bow. So, and I know my hesitation is always the cost of the shipping. Yeah. I have to send it to pay for shipping again. It's not even the making it again. It's the shipping it again.
Really? You're more concerned about the shipping than just remaking it and.
Well, you feel like your time, it's okay. I'm going to go and make it and I'll lose my time, but I can't get that shipping money back.
That's true.
Like I paid it twice and the government has it.
Yeah.
So, but I'm sure I probably just need to adjust my shipping prices or adjust my item costs to help offset that, and I've heard a lot of people say you need to do that. So I need to look more heavily into that, but it doesn't happen that often. So that's really what I need to be looking at. When it happens, just go ahead. And even though you did what they asked, just still fix it,
Okay. Now, you mentioned earlier about having a wholesale account, and then again you said you applied to Etsy wholesale. Is wholesale still something that you're actively pursuing?
Yeah, it is locally for sure. I have been, I was kind of resistant to it at first, especially the one shop. She's like 2 streets over from me, and I'm selling it to her for 50% of what I sell it for here, because it's wholesale. But I just realized that those people are going to be buying from her regardless, whether she gets another bow maker in there and sells their bows or it's my bows in there, so I'd rather at least be, getting a portion of that. Okay. So, and I don't know. So, and it's a fair amount. So I probably need to look at my costs a little more, but it's just people I don't know, maybe some of her customers would come over here, but there's some of them that wouldn't, so, cause a lot of people, when they buy clothes, they buy a bow together, and she's got clothing there.
Right.
So, but if they want something personalized, they have to come to me. So I've kind of got that little niche, so.
Is there something that you're doing right now, running your business, that you think is working really well for you?
Oh, goodness.
And it could be everything you're doing.
Oh, I wish. I think, the kinks could probably be ironed out with it, but for right now, how I'm scheduling with the program and then kind of going in every once in a while where I get a thought on what something else I might want to say. And then I can take that scheduled post off and move it to the next day or whatever. That seems to be really helping as far as the social media is concerned. And one of my friends, she told me, Shannon, you're just really good at marketing. And I was like, I am? Really? Okay. Well, that's great. Good to know. So it's kind of encouraged me to try a little harder. And I know there's a whole lot more I could do on it and try and be more personable and share more of my life. But for right now, I think it's working okay. So.
Okay, that's good. I know I struggle with that too sometimes. I'm like, should I say something more personal? And I'm like, oh, what would I say that would be? Yeah, you then you start running mental laps around your head. Like, okay, which one personal thing should I share? And then I'm like, I'm not saying anything. That's it. I'm tired of thinking.
And I've got my kids here too. So, and I'm a mom. So anything that's personal is going to be about my kids or my husband. And I'm like, oh, I don't think they don't mind, but we're right here in the same location. So I worry about it a little, safety and all that.
Yeah, I understand that. Are there any tools that you use, and they could be online tools or books or resources that just help you be better at what you do? And I know you already mentioned later. Anything else?
Yeah, there's a couple. And I wanted to tell you because there's two of them that I really love. The first one is called Vela. Have you heard of Vela?
Vela?
It's Vela. It's VELA.
Okay.
And the website is Get Vela, and it's a bulk editing tool for Etsy. And I love it. It is awesome. You can drop in 10 pictures on 100 listings all at once if you want to. If you got to go and update a color chart on 50 listings, you can go and do it right there. If you want to update the variations on 5 listings all at the same time, you can. If you want to upgrade, the title or the tags or any part of it. And it's free. Right now it's free. I don't know if he's planning on charging in the future, but right now it's free.
Wait, so it's a bulk editing tool.
Mm-hmm. And it's called Get Vela is their website, but the app is called Vela.
Okay. I will link to that in the show notes for anyone who wants to check it out. Do you already have to have your listings live and then you can edit, or do you create your listings in the tool and then does that even make sense?
You create the listings normally like you normally would.
Okay.
It's just editing. Now he's also got a Shopify version too. And I've noticed in there, because I had a bunch of them that were in a draft unpublished form, and it did let me work on them in that form too. So I'm thinking there's the same option. There's a published and an unpublished on the Etsy one. But you do still create it in there. But say I made a whole bunch of listings for these back to school bows, and I didn't have the pictures yet. So I just made them, saved them in the draft, and I put a blank holder picture in there because they make you put a picture.
Yeah.
And then I went back in with Vela and uploaded them all at the same time, all the pictures, all from one place, it was just so much quicker to just bulk do that. It has saved me so much time.
Okay. Interesting.
I love it.
All right. So I will link to Vela, getvela.com. It's a bulk editing tool for Etsy sellers and Shopify.
Yeah. Now Shopify, he's working on getting it into their main platform area. So when I was on there a couple of days ago, it wasn't working, but I guess they're going through the vetting process with Shopify right now. Okay. But Etsy works, and it works really well.
So does it do bulk editing differently than Etsy does within its own platform?
Like the tags, how you can bulk edit the tags or the title, that's pretty much all the same.
Okay.
But you can bulk edit variations, which I do a lot of stuff with variations. Yeah, okay. And bulk editing the pictures has just been, like I said, a real time saver for me. And also say you want to add the same tag to 10 listings, you type it one spot in the top, and then it will load it all down into all the other spots for you. So it does save that way too. Or say you want to just delete all the tags for 10 listings and just put all new ones in, you could do that.
Okay. And it's free.
It is free. I don't know if he's planning on charging, like I said, but it's free right now. I've had it for probably 6 months to a year, and I love it.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
Then there's one more I wanted to tell you about.
Yes.
If you are thinking about having a Shopify store, there's an app called Etsify, and you get it off of Shopify, and it will take your listings from Etsy to Shopify. And that has been a huge help to me. And I've seen a lot of different ones out there, but this is the only one that will that I found that will take over all your variations, all your pictures. Some of them won't take the pictures, and it'll take everything. And there is a yearly annual fee for that of $69, but it's been well worth it for me because that's how I got everything from Etsy over to my website. So initially.
So it takes even your tags or just the parts of your listing.
It's your tags,
pertinent?
everything you want it to take, it'll take.
And where does it populate them into Shopify?
Into your products. You have a little products area,
Oh.
and it'll sort the collections by your categories in Etsy if you want it to. You can turn that option on or off. So
Okay. All right.
And
that's the Etsify app.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry.
Yes, I love both of those. They have helped me immensely.
Okay. I will link to all three of those resources later, Vela and Etsify. I know a number of people who are considering moving to their own platform tend to look at Shopify because it's a popular one to use.
Mm-hmm.
So that's helpful for them.
Yeah, and I just recently moved to Shopify right before the last Christmas season, and I've been very happy. I get more just kind of random traffic on Shopify than I did before. So what's the other one?
Oh, you were on a different platform. You're not talking about from Etsy.
Yeah, no, yeah. I've always had I had another website, and I changed over to Shopify with using Vela for the bulk editing and Etsify and everything back before last Christmas season.
Oh, okay.
So, and I've been happy with it.
How much technical maneuvering did it take? Because I assume you're using the same domain name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Was there a lot of technical maneuvering involved in changing platforms? Does that affect the domain name in any way?
No, I just put in my new domain name with Shopify, and I had to call my domain person, and they told me what to do, and I called Shopify, and they walked me right through it, and they answered right away. I wasn't on hold forever, you know. Okay. And they helped, but I did lose what I had made on my other website, which was a Wix website. But I feel like what I gained was worth it. So yeah.
So Shannon, as we round up, can you talk to that seller who's listening right now and is just feeling lost in the shuffle and not really experiencing the success on Etsy that they had hoped they'd have? What would you tell that person? How would you encourage that person right now in this, who's just feeling discouraged about selling on Etsy and running their online business?
I think the main thing I would tell them is just don't give up. Just keep trying. Try everything. Just if one thing doesn't work, try another thing, and just keep going, and be willing to change and be willing to see what is working and what isn't working. And just, like I said, I started on Facebook because that's where everybody was selling bows, and that wasn't working for me. The algorithm changed, and so I moved over to Etsy, and I just keep trying. If it's something that that you should be doing, and it's something that you just feel really strongly about, don't give up and don't get discouraged, especially by competition, because really bows, the competition is fierce. And sometimes I think, why did I do this? There is there's, thousands of hits for bows on there. In fact, my husband's aunt, who's older, she came and saw me at this one craft fair I do 2 years ago. And she said, I just passed 6 bow booths getting to you. You might think about doing something else. So the competition is maybe fierce, but it doesn't mean that you can't be the best at it. And that's really what I strive for. I want my bows to be the best, better than anybody else's. And you can too. And don't undersell what you know how to do. The fact that I know how to sew and sew straight lines and make things, suspenders and bow ties and all that, I think, anybody can do that, but they can't. Only you're the only you, and you're the only one that can do it just the way you do it. And there's going to be people out there that are going to want to buy it from you the way you do it, and you doing it with your heart and to the best of your ability. So don't give up.
Okay. Oh, thank you. That is encouraging. And one thing I like to remind myself about is, like with you and the bows, there were 6 other people selling bows at the craft show.
Yes.
That does, on the flip side, say that people are buying bows.
That's
You
true.
just want
That's
to
true.
make sure it's your bows that they're buying.
Exactly.
Yeah, so running away from competition is not always the best way to go. Sometimes you just want to figure out your own spin on it and
Right.
how to shine the light on you in the midst of everyone else.
That's right. I couldn't agree more.
Shannon, what's the best way people can connect with you if they want to stay in touch or reach out and ask questions?
Well, you can always send me a conversation on Etsy. I'm always on there, it seems like. Or you can send me an email to Shannon at southernbellslikeBigBows.com. So either way.
Okay. All right. I will, of course, link to Shannon's Etsy shop, and I'll have her email in the show notes for this episode, as well as link to her website and all the resources that we've talked about. Shannon, thank you so much. I sometimes forget to look at the time, but we've been talking for like an hour and a half. Thank you so much for taking this time, yes, and having this nice long conversation with me and talking about bows and your business and just how you're doing it. I like that your journey is unique and that you're doing things that are different, and hopefully that will help to stir somebody's imagination to not necessarily do the same thing, but see how they can put a spin on what they're doing to make it more unique and stand out like you're doing.
Oh, well, thank you. And I mean, I enjoyed it so much. I'm so glad you had me on here. And I hope we get to talk more in the future. I enjoy talking to you.
Well, now that you said that, I'm going to invite you again because I love doing updates.
No, I meant like on email or Facebook.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I would do it.
All right. Thank you. It's been my pleasure, though.
All right. Thank you.
And I thank you for listening to the podcast. I will be back next week.
Thank you for listening. You can subscribe to the podcast in iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review too. Visit convome.com to leave a comment or feedback on this episode.